Trading the foreign exchange market carries high risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Trading on margin, utilizing leverage can carry an even higher level of risk that can lead to a complete loss of investment funds. So before deciding to trade the foreign exchange market or using any of our software alert products, you should carefully and diligently consider your personal investment objectives, level of experience, and risk tolerance. There is a possibility that you could potentially sustain significant loss. You should not invest any capital or trade that you cannot afford to lose. It is your responsibility to be aware of and understand all risks associated with foreign exchange trading and to seek professional advice from an independent certified financial advisor if you have any doubts. Auvoria Prime does not exercise trading authority over your trades. You and you alone exercise discretionary trading authority over every trade.
This is a big Federal Reserve deal, and it is an important. It's going to be online this year. There's not going to be a lot of central bankers attending from a live perspective, which was typically the case at this awesome resort in Wyoming. But it is typically where the Federal Reserve, at least from the standpoint of our Federal Reserve here in the US, sometimes other central banks that are in attendance will make statements, but it certainly can be a volatile event. So Chairman Powell will be speaking on this. Is all being done via, I'm assuming, Zoom. So just be aware of this. If I had had a good week trading in currencies, either manually and or with the automated system, I would actually have them turned off for Thursday and Friday. So just note that. As far as the charts, let's take a look. I always start off with finviz.com, and I look at the futures markets set up on a daily chart so I can compare them all. So the indices bounced from a little correction with the exception of the small cap stuff, which is of note, by the way. Volatility has come back down. This is the VIX index, which measures volatility. Some spikes, if you notice, the last couple of days in energy, all of the energy complex with the exception of nat gas. So of note, movement up again in metals. Have some commodities moving up and food-based item commodities moving up while others are in complete reverse, which is interesting. So 30-year, 10-year, 5-year, 2 of note, not a lot going on in this complex. Many are expecting these yields to rise. That may infect the movement of the dollar. So generally, here's the dollar. Last couple days down, no surprise, we were up against a fairly significant long-term resistance point up here, and we have pulled back from that. Now, a couple of those that I follow that I consider to be truly the smart money, primarily David Hunter, has said that this is it. Now we're headed to 130 in the euro. When, how long do we stay there with it? Those are all unknowns, even the smartest out there. And I don't consider myself to be among the super smart money. That's why I try to plug into a lot of these guys. But the key thing really here is that I think we've topped in the dollar for now. So hopefully the softwares are adjusting to potentially a trend reversal and a potential trend up for, certainly the euro and the pound. I can't say how long that'll continue. We could be dead wrong and the dollar could remain completely flat right here, right? But I think it's good just to look at this in a comparison to the other currencies that have, for at least the last 2 days, in some cases more, they've popped up while the dollar's dropped. Jumping over to charts, S&P, let's start off with the DXY. You can see what I've talked about. Longer term chart from a dollar or a daily perspective. We've been in a downtrend and we spent better part of a year just basing. Tested that upper point right here. We have been rejected from that point, and some think that's it. Let's just consider him the smarter money. If you're wondering who David Hunter is, you can follow my Twitter account. I just got a question about that the other day. I don't think I showed that. Here's my Twitter account right here. You can follow me if you wish. I don't want to follow. I want to follow me. There we go. So I'll post this link. Ask you to follow me if you wish. There's a lot of smart people that I will retweet a fair amount of stuff on. I'll post this in the chat room now. And I just am not, from a political perspective, I just don't like the what this platform has done generally. But as far as just using it for research and good information, David Hunter, in my opinion, the guy is one of the best. And he posts tons of really good stuff, and he's done a lot of podcasts and all that. So I think that it's important to, you can always go in and follow the people that I follow. If you're not sure how to do that, you just pull up somebody's profile and you just click on who they follow. And it brings a master list up of a lot of people that I follow. Most of these guys are all just experts in, or at least they are viewed by the group as experts in everything from equities, futures, forex type trading, chart experts, so forth. Many of these guys are coaches and mentors. I'm actually in some conversations with a few of these guys right now because Josh has really been banging on me to start up a trade room, more from a futures equities perspective, maybe some options as well. So it'll be a little different in terms of what we trade than what our core systems are in Forex. But the real issue we're having is, can I run an investment firm as a Series 65 RIA while having myself and or colleagues run a trade room for the week for Auvoria? So there's some risk issues in there from a compliance perspective with FINRA. If you don't know who that is the governing body of RIA folks like myself in the US. So, you can follow some of these people. There's some great stuff. This chat, Darius Dale, this guy's super smart. Runs a company called 42 Capital Management. He's considered super smart money. And he's just recently discovered, as you can see, he's just recently discovered how cool it is being on Twitter, at least from an investment perspective. And he's already gained a ton of followers in just a few months. So I'm always on the lookout for, smart money, and following these guys to try and just help with research, right? Help reduce risk. If they're seeing something that I'm not, which in many cases helps me reduce the time that needs to be spent doing research and uncovering potential pitfalls in any area of trading. So I'll get off my soapbox. Let's move into the next chart, Euro USD. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this stuff today. I went through this in exhaustive detail on Saturday. If you care to see the recordings, do keep in mind before I forget, I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but hopefully you guys all got this email. If you haven't read it, please do. We're going to be switching over to AP Social. Okay. AP Social, sort of like the mothership, where we'll have the main platform, and then there'll be AP Live, which is where the trade rooms are. That's where I may decide to set up a trade room in there. But all the Telegram and everything, it's going to all be replaced Zoom with this platform, which I think I'm going to need to get on board with pretty soon, or Bill's going to start chasing me around with a ruler. So I'll get on it, and we'll get switched over to the new platform. Zoom will go away. Euro USD daily chart. There's that bottom part I was talking about on Saturday. We've ticked up, no surprise. Dollar, it's typically the inverse type of chart. Let's take a look at the US CAD relationship. Now this one has a little more of a pronounced move, as we've certainly seen with the Swiss and CAD based pairs. I know some of the developers have put these on hold and or curtailed their trading because of the increased volatility, as you could certainly see here. I don't really do this is anything more than just lower volumes, as you can see, sort of exaggerated moves, which typically can happen when there's less liquidity available, which is what we've seen. So just be aware of that. Let's take a look at the cable. We are daily chart here. Support and resistance, if you're not familiar, these red and orange lines represents what's called squeeze zones, which are nothing more than a more sophisticated version of a support and resistance line. Yellow 10 is the orange, yellow, whatever you want to call that color, has a tendency to be stronger in its magnitude, if you will, than red. Not always the case. I almost equal weight them in terms of discussions, but it does carry a stronger weight. So when it stops and then it moves to a different color, may not have the strength that it did before, right? But you want to of note that when you're looking at. Right, so let's can already went through that. It's JPY for the question I just got. Still inside a tight range, a whole bunch of dojis showing up. You know, it's almost like the institutions of the ones that their primary traders are back from the summer vacation, which should be ending in about a week or two. It's almost as if there's some slight juxtapositioning going on in front of this Jackson Hole meeting. Maybe that's why we're seeing some, shoring up, if you will, of positions. But do keep in mind, it is coming on lower volume. So it's almost like, are the tea leaves showing us anything? Are they showing us zero, but we think they're showing us something? I can't, just be aware of it is really all you can do at this point. Dollar Swiss, daily chart. Aussie. I show this one because it broke below the line. I came right back up. No surprise. Why? Dollar's been strong, right? And then the dollar's been weaker. So with this, you have a little pop up, which almost flies in the face of what's going on with DXY, right? So you'd think this, you would have a continued weakness as the dollar strengthened, but not the case the last 2 days. So maybe a little bit of a tell in here. CAD CHF, Euro GBP. Don't really show this much. Still stuck inside of a law base that we're building here. Very close, very tight auctioning back and forth for a good period of time. No trend one way or the other, just flat, just balancing. Let's do GBP CAD. This is the NEO currency. Talked a lot about this on Saturday too, if you guys want to go back and check the recordings out. AUD CAD for the question I just got. Really holding sort of the edge of the cliff here. Go to a weekly chart on this one. See what's going on. It's the edge of the cliff right here. We're at it. To really show it from the perspective of, but you can see looking back a little further back, the dates, 10th of February, it's almost a year and a half ago. We had a lot of strength here until we blew through it, and in which case it usually will become support. Line's not drawn yet, but we're looking at a weekly. On the daily, showing support we're at it right now. Could be a tight balance. Every one of these charts could look completely different from the perspective of Jackson Hole. So just keep that in mind. Gold. Here's the spot market. Big support at just under 1,700 an ounce. We've bounced above to where we're coming up against some pretty significant resistance right here on the daily. Move to the weekly chart, or at resistance on the weekly. So gold could be contained unless something goes bananas in these central banker discussions late this week. Do keep in mind that Jackson Hole may not have its normal impact, just simply from the standpoint that there's not going to be full central banks in attendance from what we've seen in past years. So it's almost like the junior crowd. But most important one, the only one really, quite frankly, as far as the dollar usually that matters is what any of Jerome Powell's testimony may be. Let's keep that in mind. GLD, and the last request I got for the Bitcoinage. This one you got to start with the daily, in my opinion, if you're trading that time frame. See what's taken place since about a year ago. Movement up. Very pronounced head and shoulders neckline was crushed. Had a lot of liquidation with much higher volumes, as you can see here. And on this lift, we haven't had an explosion of volume. It's been almost like and this is what makes it tough to trade anything that doesn't have a significant participation, if you will, among institutions, or at least large whale-based retail, or the two together, is that when you do not have full participation of volumes or lower, things have a tendency to just trend currently in the direction that they're going. So there should be no surprise that if in fact I'm reading all these factors correctly, remember, I could always be wrong on this stuff and have not the read of the tea leaves that I should. It happens. But at the same time, we just don't have the participation. So all it really will take, you may have what's called weak hands as holders right here, more than likely from a long perspective. It would be very easy to shake this crowd out and blast them down. Anything underneath short term, obviously, of 40, I don't know why there's not a line there, but anything short term of 44-ish in terms of this coin is support. Underneath that, we'll probably go right to the 41-ish area, which was resistant for some time until it wasn't. Okay? Doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be support, by the way. True support is right down here, far, far away. Doesn't mean we couldn't move there pretty quickly. You can see that it took it took 9 trading days to almost get cut in half. So just know that could happen again. Now, obviously, we had higher volumes here, right? So it was more of a meaningful move in terms of a technical analysis view that you want to make on it. I think that is all I want to talk about. Look here. And for the question I just got on oil, I prefer to look, doesn't really have the right volume on it, but I prefer to look at the US oil, what's called the CFD, which is just kind of like a unit trust and ETF on this. Symbol is US oil, if you guys are using TradingView. Yeah, it's pretty much everything I want to cover. So, read through the email, get used to the platform. Make sure you spread the word, because at some point everybody's going to go to log into Zoom and they're going to be like, what the hell? Where's Steve? So do be aware of the switchover. And on a other note, there's been, there's been talk of bringing on, as we always do, lots of different trade rooms. I think Josh and the team want to have, 10 trade rooms that do different stuff, right? Some's Forex, some's manual, some's automated, some more where they help you actually build your own systems. Which is good to automatically trade. For the question I just got, if I were to do the trade room, the great thing about that is that the brokerage accounts that we would be asking people to establish are just the big well-known names that most Americans are already familiar with. So, you can trade futures in a TD Ameritrade account. You could trade it at Interactive Brokers, right? Those are actually 2 really good brokers you could trade with. These are all American-based companies. They both are publicly traded, Charles Schwab as well. These companies, in many cases, are some of the most solid brokerage firms in this entire planet. You can trade it through a couple of others. As far as options goes, you can use eToro for that, stuff like that. So it just depends. And, if you want, you could even go directly to a little more esoteric firms like an RJ O'Brien or a Dorman to trade futures, where I trade through for the fund. And, you just get the ability to execute. The greatest thing about trading, equities, options, futures, markets-based stuff through like an Interactive or a TD, is that, you can log in. They have, really good charting and execution systems that you can use. So it's a lot different than using like MT4 and a charting platform like TradingView. So we use, or if we had a room, we would be streaming live our LensSoft's IRT charts, which looks similar to this. We probably have this chart next to the other platform, which are both cloud-based. We'd stream them both so that you can see, the regular technical analysis, just like we've always done. But on the IRT charts, we'll actually be able to see the footprint of where executions take place from an order flow standpoint. We'll also get to see composites, which are much, much broader versions of this right here. So just know that. But that could be 6 months down the road. Who knows? See if I can get my act together or not. I wish everybody a great trading week. May the trades be with you, and have a great day.